Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Today, we're going to more emphasize that strategy and tactics because I have pretty much one of the greatest players of the game here on the show. I have Spawn 10, Mr. Head Judge himself, Patrick. Say hello to everybody.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think the last time I had you on the show was probably the Quarry. And yeah. So it's definitely been a while since I've sat in the interview chair with you. So I won't lie. I have many cyber stalked you for like the last 2 weeks, listening to all of the Majestics new podcasts. And for anyone that isn't aware, Majestics is back on YouTube, and they're also in podcast form. I was able to hear them on SoundCloud. Are you also on Podbean too, or are you just on SoundCloud?
It's just SoundCloud and YouTube. The YouTube's the video, SoundCloud's the audio that you can actually download.
Yes, and they also have super.
We gotta have you on, by the way. Gotta remember, we gotta have you on. I've been wanting to get you on.
And yeah, that's the joke of heroclix podcasting. You haven't really started until you had me on. And because I will spread myself everywhere, sort of like the common cold. Once people hear me for a bit, they're like, I thought I was going to get away from you. And then you're on 2 other people's podcasts. How did that happen? I'm like, that's the type of person I am. So, so I've listened to a lot of Majestics podcasts. I also have to thank our current Rock World champ, Dan Powell, because he threw up episode 10, and I was like, what? Like, what? Is this old? And he was, I was like, I didn't think they were around anymore doing shows. And then it's like, I listened to it, I'm like, this is new. And so I was like, I need to go and listen to all of these old ones. So definitely check it out on SoundCloud, and you're also on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to plug it up front because I think that is one of the most important things, because when we talk about resources for the game, people wanting to be better, definitely this is a podcast to listen to. When it was more consistent previously, I was listening to it. I did have to make a note that it is improved, mainly because you have a better co-host, and the other guys were yes men. Like the previous guys, they would just be yes men, and that wasn't fun. So let's get into it, and we're going to talk about real briefly about Rocktober. You're coming in as the head judge. This is your second year doing it. What's some lessons that you've learned from being the Rock head judge in this year's time?
That I don't know all the rules. there's just so much. Whether it's being changed on their site that we don't know, and someone has to find it. It's almost like a scavenger hunt, you know. Mm-hmm. Or there's just some kind of new interaction or new wording that someone just discovered, and now we have to like delve into it further. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing would be, I guess, for the actual gameplay of tournament play is answering questions on actual procedures on things. So that's especially as it gets closer or to like a higher level event, then I start getting more of those questions. But if it's kind of like I kind of want to say if it's like a low level Whiskers Open when there's like 8 people, then nobody really cares and they just kind of wing it, or like I guess a lower level Super Cube with only 10 players, something like that, then I noticed that you really don't get anything. But when it gets like to the higher level, more players, bigger stakes, then the questions start coming out.
Yeah, the questions are like, well, what would happen if I have X resource from this period with this other figure from this other period, and I combine that with, this new figure from this period? It's like, where's my timing coming in? And it's like, well, first we have to trace the history and the evolution of this word.
Yeah, exactly. It's a history lesson. Yeah.
So,
but a lot of it is more on like when is the actual turn over? When can you take something back? When can you when is it a cock dice? Things like that. That's usually, those are more. That's what I mean. More like procedures.
Ah, okay. And that's
obviously with the rules too, but
yeah, those are also important things as well. So definitely we deal with the scavenger hunt element of it. Are you in that position where you're like screenshotting and archiving every little ruling you possibly can? Because we'll do a grand purge.
Right? Yeah, if you remember Alex, he does that already. He screenshots everything. My judge over here. Yeah, he does it already. But also just the guys like Jay, Tiago, Adam. A lot of them keep. They either know where the links are, or they just like you said, they screenshot it. So when we do have to go back, it's pretty. There's like a wealth of knowledge from a lot of the players.
Yeah, I feel that there's like a document out there with every ruling Whiskers has ever made, held by like some grand wizard or something.
I know.
It's like, I am the master of the heroclix. I know everything. That's like summon ruling on, copycat.
Yeah.
It's like poof.
Yeah, no, that's true. Especially for our format, like the Rock Age, definitely have to know those.
Yeah. All right. So going into Rock Cup, what figures do you feel are probably going to be providing you the most amount of questions? And barring the Majestics format, you're already prepped for that. I already know that I got too many people on my team, on the squad going deep. Like, we going to be ready for that midnight super cube.
Yeah.
And I see some of these weird ideas. I'm like, oh gosh, okay. And so I know you're ready for that because you've been judging that format for a while, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But from modern and even for the Super Q on Saturday, the Rock Age Limited, what type of questions are you expecting to see?
For Rock Age? Oh, man. Okay, so because Rock Age, they don't use our ban list because it's limited, definitely there will be questions regarding Super Scroll and probably Copycat. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because Copycat Copycat is a really good. It's really good in that format. Maybe trying to think what are the other things. Maybe something like with Phantom X, whether or not. Well, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe not Phantom X. I don't know if he'll be really played. I also think that for the first event, which is Rock Limited, it's I feel like it's going to be everything within the last couple of years, because I don't know how many people either kept a lot of the old stuff, because usually when there's like a rotation, people go in purges.
Yeah.
So a lot of them they might keep their favorite piece or something with nostalgia, but nothing. I feel like they're not going to be keeping like an excessive amount of old things. So I think within the last couple of years.
I won't lie. The one thing, I've kept a good chunk of my collection. I've only sold off like more expensive pieces that I wasn't going to play. Like recently, I sold my Ultra Chase Deadpool, the Unicorn Deadpool.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm never going to play this.
Yeah.
And I lost over $50 of value because I sold it now instead of last year when I won it. But I played it like twice. And then I was trying to use it as a bargaining tool to get a Mjolnir, and the guy wouldn't give up on the Mjolnir. And I was just like, all right, I have to move on. But for like my local area, I usually tell people I'm the keeper of the old dark magic. I don't have to be afraid of y'all because I have all the old nuclear options.
That's good.
And so,
that's
but
good.
I do agree with you that a lot of people do purge. And I think there's two main reasons I think a lot of people purge. Number one, if you hit an anniversary year, Whiskers is going to hit you with that plastic chaff really hard. And you're going to start off at the beginning of the year. You're like, oh, that's good. The middle of the year, it's like, I have to get these 3 sets that came out. And at the end of the year, you're there looking at your wallet and you're wondering, how many like poor children you could have fed for a year with how much you spit in clicks because WizKids just sort of treated you like an ex-wife and like sucked all the money out of you, and you're still making payments. I still have most of my stuff, but I understand because the cost of the game is expensive, and so people are trying to like keep up. And I don't know if you've noticed it or not, or how you feel at all about it. Do you feel like the cost of the game has just gone up, or has it just been staying the same?
Oh, definitely has gone up. I think ever since 2013 or 2014, whenever all the resources started coming out, and then the chases, when they had like consistently good chases, that's when it started really going up. Starting with like Iron Pharaoh, entities, things like that.
Yeah.
And then obviously trying to get those batteries that were only released in such a small window that everybody was trying to get, orange, yellow, whatever, indigo in the secondary market, and those were really expensive. The trend has only followed, but I think now with more events being played, with like double the amount of WizKids Opens and the amount of Rock Super Qualifiers, Mega Qualifiers, winner maps, whatever, all around the year, people have to have teams ready, and if they want to play, they're gonna have to get these things. That's what's driving the prices up. Only in this, I would say the very, very well. You know what though? It's all the top pieces are pretty up there. It's going to be hard to play a bunch of commons. You're gonna have to play like super rares and up, and sometimes multiples. Back before the Rock was around, you could only play in 2 events throughout the whole year. It was Nationals at Origins, and Gen Con Indy for Worlds. That was it. Well, so you only had those 2 events. You didn't have to worry about keeping things until that time of the year.
Well, there are 4 events. There's 4 classic events, and these are this is post Wizard World era, I would say. The 4 classic events were, like you said, Gen Con Origins, Clicks for Cure on the East Coast, and then of course Majestics on the West Coast.
But, 4. Okay.
Yeah, those were the 4, and
that was it. 4 times in a year.
Yeah, 4 times in a year. And you had other, like, I would say, quote-unquote, big events like Dragon Con or whatever. But that was a limited amount of people that really knew about Dragon Con during that time. And I would definitely say if we would look at our classic events, Gen Con was the dance. Like, Gen Con was what the whole world looked at. And Origins...
It was World.
Yeah, Gen Con was Worlds for people who don't know. And Origins was like, oh, cool, you did that. And so when I hear folks, it's like, we just don't appreciate the national champ. And I'm like, I know pretty much every national champ just about every national champ since George Massue won his championship. And I have to be honest with, listeners, we never really cared about the national champ. You're right. And
because it was like, even then, you know what? Back then, it was like a month or 2 apart, right?
It was a month or 2 apart, but worst off, at least in the Midwest, and I don't know what it was like in the West Coast, but we just call it the East Coast Championship. And because you would look at it, and it's just like East Coast guy, East Coast guy, East Coast guy, whatever. It was the East Coast Championship.
That's how it was. Same here.
Yeah, so US Nats really hasn't mattered until I think what was his name? When we had Ghost Rider.
Ross Udis.
Ross Udis, yeah. And Ross Udis, that's when everybody started saying things about it. Then we also had Adam Friedman. And Adam Friedman was the bigger issue with people knowing who Adam Friedman was at the time, was primarily like, oh, look how many entities that he had on this team.
Yeah, he had like 3, I think, 2 or 3.
Yeah, 3. And then folks were pretty much saying, oh, he sucks because he has all these entities. Lo and behold, they did not know the monster that was Adam Friedman. So, there's always been this, I hate to say it, this massive disrespect for whoever is the national champion. And then recently, when everything's all together, everyone's like, "Oh,
Ooh,
hey."
made it worse. Made it even worse.
Yeah, it did. Like you had literally your day in the sun.
Yeah, and yeah, one day, right? One day.
Not even a day. You didn't even get a full 24 hours. You sort of got like 18, like because you're going to be asleep during most of it. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's where I like I said, going back to our bigger competitions. Classically, it was 4 times a year, and the market was really set by Gen Con and Origins. You might have something at the beginning of the year that might set pace when you're leading up to Origins, like some big other major.
that would
like
be a good
tournament.
idea. You know? That would be a good idea because there's nothing in like January, February.
I think it was
Nothing.
Clicks for the Cure was February,
Right.
and then Clicks for the Cure, then Origins.
Yeah.
I don't exactly remember classically the time of Majestics.
Yeah, ours was usually we did it twice a year. One would be towards the beginning of the year, like March, April, and then one towards the end of the year, like either November, December.
Yeah, usually it's the end of the year ones that I remember.
Yeah.
It's so like I always was like, one day I'm going to go and play the good people.
Sure.
And you know what's funny? I actually was saving up to go to Majestics for this year. Then you changed the format where you had to win the other little tournaments. I was like, I can't go out there 2 times a year. I can go out there once.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a lot of things in store coming up, so I'll keep you posted for sure.
Yeah. So like next year, and I tell people it's like if you give me enough time on the calendar,
Yeah.
you tell me at the beginning of the year, yo, this is what's going down, and I will make. If I'm like I'm going, I'm gonna make
Nice.
save money to go.
Nice.
You know, but if you tell me like 3 weeks out, like, yo, man, we got an event, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I may not make that, man. Let's see how this check lands. So Sally Mae is my wife right now. She grabs my wallet really quick. So, let's sort of go on, and we're going to talk about the Majestic series. And right now, I would say it's probably it's not even a probably. It is. It is the premier event in the West Coast.
Yeah.
There is more activity, more. I would say the West Coast feel of the game in the series than I've seen before. So, what are some of the positives that you've seen coming out of the Majestics Open series?
Well, first and foremost, the format is a team builder's paradise. So anybody who's a team builder, you can play almost whatever you want because you can basically slap a resource on it or something like that. Also, people who missed. Let's say you came in 2016. You didn't get to play during the era of like Banshee and Phantom X and stuff like that.
About Banshee,
things like that. You can go ahead and go back to that time and play. Just and that a lot of people were like, "Wow, this is really cool." Like Lydia Malor, remember her?
Oh yeah,
that's a lot of players that came in late are like, "Wow, this is an awesome piece." Like, yeah, because you get to steal something. She's got a stop click. She's only 79 points, super strength, stealth. She ports. There's also Quinjet's still good back then. So if you were a player who played Quinjet and amassed you spent that money trying to get all those ID cards that were at the time very expensive, trying to get all the Nick Fury, all those figures, and get the Quinjet itself. You don't have to like shelve it. You can just retool it for the format. So that helps people like that who maybe don't know what to play. And they're like, I still have the Quinjet. I can just update it with new things. So that's another one. Also, it's just a more open format, meaning the players don't have to buy 5 Wolverines to play. They don't have to buy a Starro. They can play Shumagorath if they want. They can they can do all kinds of things like that. So in that sense, they don't have to feel like. And also, right now the entities are very cheap. So if you wanted to buy entities, you can get them for like $20.
I got not Parallax. I had a Proselyte for 20, and I was just trolling it. This is my second one. That's the worst part. I was just trolling. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna throw out a bid, Yeah, it's going to go up to $15.
Yeah,
I end up winning.
So a lot of people now that they can go back and get them for cheap. Now they don't have to worry about having to pay $80 for something. They can build basically anything, any theme team you can think of. You always want to try some kind of new interaction. You can. There's a lot of options. So that is the number one thing that we found. So because people come in, I get messages all the time. People will come in the store. They're always like, "Does this work? Does this work?" And then it's like, "Yes, it does." And then they get excited and they go with their friends and they try to build more. So that's I think that part's the number one attraction. Is it's a team builder's paradise.
When I looked at the format, and this is me sort of being the rock commentator guy for a bit, I remember when the West Coast was sort of coming onto the competitive scene, and the biggest thing was look at the cool different stuff that's out on the West Coast. Yeah. And I think there's sort of a recapturing of that spirit with the Majestics Open Championship Majestics
Open Series.
Open Series. Sorry, I had the wrong ending on it. A little tired. It's 11 o'clock my time, and it's 9 o'clock his time, people. Like I said, I had like a hypersleep, and I'm coming off the hypersleep and into being up for like a prolonged period of time. But anyway, I wanted to see that sort of creativity come back because from the heroclix community perspective, historically, creativity and innovation of the game primarily came from Canada, which is gone now because there's like hardly anything ran up there. No offense to my American Clicks people, but like you don't have Rob Barazul. George Massey isn't the only person who remembers that name. You don't have Patricia Lamb up there anymore. Hell, I haven't really heard of Department H in a while.
Yeah,
so
that's true, right?
So it's like, who's your new vanguard? Like, I mean,
Tom Kerr, baby, Tom Kerr.
Yeah, Tom Kerr is good. Like he's got man. He made me envious for his voice. Like I was like, dang.
He has a radio voice too.
Yeah, sure. If I had his voice, dude, man, I might get more numbers from the club. I don't know. Like, yeah. But outside of that, I think there was a problem. But anyway, so if we go back, we had Canada, and then we also had the West Coast, and those were 2 points of innovation. Really, like the establishment of what modern was usually primarily the East Coast, and I'm saying classically, people, because folks be like Midwest, down south right now, and I'm like classically, people.
Yeah, because most of the events were in the East Coast, so that's all we can look at.
Right. So, and then we start looking at championships, definitely like 2014, 15, 16, it's still primarily West and East Coast dominated. Like, the Midwest and the South were just starting to come up.
Right.
Like, if you look at placement, you'll see it's like, it's mostly East and West Coast people. And then as time progressed, more Midwest and Southern players started appearing. So there is that. But so as I look at this, and like I said, I've digested a lot of Majestics podcasts recently. It's in me. All right. Does the West still have a competitive spirit? Because, and I'm not trying to start, grudge match 2.0. I definitely not. I don't want this to be the George Massey watershed moment, where the West Coast is like they done called us out.
That's funny. That's funny. But that is a classic one, though. That's gonna go down forever.
It is. And I'm not gonna even say like the West Coast is scrubs, but there's two distinct things in listening to the podcast recently that stand out in my mind. And number one you mentioned is I won't put a shirt on somebody who's not willing to travel. And then the second one was somebody from your area went over to another venue and said they talked to some major players and they said they weren't really scared of players from the West Coast.
Right.
And so when I have those two things in my mind, and I'm like, yeah, if you knew Clay, you would be concerned about him. And then you make some comments like, he doesn't really play Modern. And I'm like,
Yeah, he plays.
yeah. And so if Clay played Modern,
yeah,
I would be very concerned.
Exactly.
I've played Clay. I played Clay in
Yep.
teams. And I'm like, and I'm looking at his technique. I'm like, dude's a beast. So I can't be like, there's nobody on the West Coast. I mean, hell, before you got him, I tried to get Aaron. So
yeah, I know, I remember.
yeah, so there are good players, but it just seems like, and this again, I'm not calling West Coast out. It sort of seems everyone's hiding behind the legacy of Majestics.
Hold on, you gotta stop qualifying that. You don't. I'm calling them out, so you can go ahead.
Okay, all right. Let's just be frank. It seems like the Pacific Northwest podcast, those dudes, they probably talk crap about me, and I never knew, because they talk crap about everybody else, but they haven't done anything worth noticing. And it seems like everybody else is sort of hiding behind the Majestics flag, like they did it. Like, no, they didn't do it. Y'all watched it. Y'all weren't a part of it. I remember a while ago there was some Kyle guy. He ran like Green Lantern and won like some event out there in Cali. And I said to him, on the quarry, I was like, look, this dude isn't done yet. Give him a couple of more months and some more experience, and I think that he could be a player. I don't think he's there yet. He saw me at some big event and gave me like the evil eye, like I cursed him or something. And I'm like, yo, what's I almost want to come up to him like, I know what I said, and I know I'm twice your size. It's not the fact reason I'm not scared of you right now, because you're a beanpole looking dude. But for real, if you want to do something other than me, mug me, at least talk to me. Hell, I've had folks, I've dogged their team on the quarry, come up and beat me playing that team. So I'm a man enough to admit when I'm wrong, but at least approach me. But I want to know, like, where is the competitive spirit in the West Coast? First
off, I want to say that one of the things I do appreciate you is that you voice your opinion. And there's a lot of people that don't do that because they want to be diplomatic, politically correct. But that's why I don't listen to them. Because I you got to have somebody that has the balls to say what they want. So I appreciate you saying that. And and then if you are wrong, you do say it, and that makes it better.
Yeah.
So okay, with that said, you know what, man, I can't even tell you, man, just like the guys at the new crop of guys that are around the area, they don't really put in the necessary time. I mean, they have like natural skill, talent, and like one of the guys is Emilio. He's probably like our best player of the new crop of guys, but he just doesn't travel. And when I say travel, he'll drive like 3 hours, 4 hours, but he won't fly. He won't go. He probably won't go out of state. Whatever the reason may be, I mean, he's got the skill, he's got the talent to do it, but he just doesn't. Him and his brother are really good. They just don't. And because of that, they also don't practice as much as they should. So they could be even better. So, but now you take that and you multiply that by like 10 or 15 other people that are like that. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of guys that are good. They want to be, there's a lot of guys that talk a good game, like they all want to do this, whatever. And then when it comes down, when the rubber hits the road, they're nowhere to be seen. And that's why, I've been very hesitant to like give them, like I even talked to them about having full sponsorship of like, I'll pay for part of your flight or your hotel or whatever. Just,
wow.
Because one of the things that I need to do, like for them, not only for them to win, but I need them to also get me leads to buy collections too. So that's what they can do by winning and going out and like, networking for me so that I can, get stock for my store.
It's mutually
so,
beneficial.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But they don't, but because of that, I'm not gonna do it because they haven't shown me that they're willing to do that. So like any of the guys, like Justin, Justino, Kevin, and Chris. Kevin is just barely getting back in, so he could be the one, but he's way far behind. He has been out for like a year. Justino doesn't play anymore, and Chris Flores doesn't play anymore. So, like the core group, which was us four, and I don't really play as much, so we are all we're all out, and so because of that, then the apathy spreads to the rest of the region. So, and nobody wants to, will do anything. Like Clay will go and do stuff. He'll come on it, but you have to prod him to go do it. But
there was also, you said the LA guy, Steve. I forgot.
Tony. Yeah,
okay.
Those are the two guys. They're really good. They would travel. The thing is, they do want to come and practice and they want to play, but they just don't. They can't. So because of that, in my opinion, this is why they're limited in what they can do.
Yeah.
Because
I've talked to Tony multiple times, even after the whole Kleenex Nest joke. I gave them props on that last year at Rocktober. I told him, I'm like, yo, man, if you ever need help, like team organization or anything, let me know. Like, because what I believed at the time, and I still believe, is that the West Coast needs multiple teams. I felt Majestics was the Lakers. You need the Utah Jazz. Like, right. and that's really what I feel that needed to happen. That's why I wanted to help back Tony. Because, I asked him, I was like, well, why didn't you, do Majestics? And he said he wanted to do his own thing. I'm like, all right, I respect that. I know this. And if back in the day, you came to me before I even started this, and you were like, hey, you and Mace, we want to make y'all Majestics, and we're starting a regional outreach team. I would not even thought about Phoenix Nest. I would have been like, hell yes. Phil Jackson has called my name. I'm ready to go. What do I need to do, man? But also, making team has made me look at stuff in a different way otherwise. But, and there's certain things you understand that's your strength or that's your lane. But, so here's the other question I have to sort of follow up. What's it going to take for this, micro segregation to break? How can we tear down this Berlin Wall? Because I believe that there's benefit for Midwest players, and really all players, to make a trip out to the West Coast, and particularly to play in Majestics.
Oh, yeah. PJ's done it. Everybody. Adam, actually, I'm trying to think. George came out. He flew out here. Adam's flown out here. PJ's flown out here. Easton's flown out here. Paris flown out here multiple times. Basically, all the, Dan went as far as Denver. So, Jake came all the way out here. Rob Barazal came out here.
Yeah.
All the top guys have been coming. When we have a thing, it's just, it is expensive to come out here, So that is a big thing. So what I would do before, how would I try to entice them was we're right by Disneyland, so if you bring the family, you can make it like a vacation. Because that's why I made my events 2 days, so that they're not just here for one day. They could be here for 3, 4, or 5 days.
Yeah.
So a lot of them would do that. Yeah, Wes Summers even came out here. Yeah, all the guys from the PNW, they all came. They've all come. So it's just that I think right now the Rock is in a transition period. So I think some of the teams like the PNW, like the Brothers Prob and the Eagles, and then the Team Vegas, I think they're kind of in a wait and see. So that's why they haven't really jumped on.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Whereas before they were.
I have to say something about Team Vegas, and this is my sort of gripe with them.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a big tournament in your area, specifically designed for you to be in your area, and you talk about all the people that you can bring out, and nobody comes out, you really don't have a scene. What you really have is a lot of people that want to be considered to have a scene. And that is my problem. I don't usually, curse on this show, and I'm reserved this one phrase. I don't like people who talk shit. Mm-hmm. Okay, I really don't. I have a tolerance for it, like in like little web pages or whatever. But when it comes to the community, I really don't like it. And the main reason I don't like it is if you brag and say, I can get 30 people to an event, and there's 15 people at the event, that's an event that could have been somewhere else that would have brought in 30 people for the prize.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely right. But you know what I think? So let me tell you a little bit history with the Vegas guys. When I was doing our own thing just before the Rock and everything, they would roll. They would come, 10, 20 deep. They would take like 3, 4, 5 cars. They would make here like every time. Yeah. And rolling, dusting all them. I think the main problem was so the very first official Rock Super Qualifier was the Vegas. It was the Vegas. There was like a mini convention going on over there, and Dustin was the one. Like we're gonna do it. It's in December. It's perfect time for the first event for the Super Q, and Howard, Tony, the board were like, okay, cool, let's make it there. Well, obviously, since it's the first event, there are some problems. So they didn't get the kit at all. And, at the time, the most important thing that people wanted were the points. Because people were trying to get those points to redeem later on when they go to the Rock Cup.
Yeah.
But also, the maps didn't show up. The plaque wasn't there. So luckily, Dustin had a cup that he made specially for the event that was supposed to supplement it. And so I was like, oh, this is it. Justino won it, so we have it here at the store. But he doesn't have the plaque because it wasn't shipped. I don't know whose fault it was, but remember at the time, TCG Player was doing it. So after Dustin complained, and, after I don't know how long it took, but I remember it was months because they came down to our event in the new year with the points for the guys that were in the air, that were like for people like Aaron, me, Frank, Justin, Ryan, and then so we had the points. Like, oh, I forgot that we even had those points, but there were like I don't think there were I don't know if the maps. I don't know. There was just things that it was in there, and that left a bad taste with Dustin. So Dustin Hall, and that was the first. That's your first impression, being the first event. So it's hard, like I was saying, it's hard to make a second first impression on someone. So ever since then, it has been like a I guess you would say tenuous relationship between The Rock and Vegas.
I would say it's non-existent because and this is why. Yeah. And this is something from my end. All right. 3 years ago, I said to Howard, I want to have teams. I want there to be team rankings. I want there to be official members on teams, and then we track the results and through the year. We can even do sponsorships for the best teams, and then say like, look, your ranking of whether you're recognized or not is based off of how you perform. Because I felt teams were something interesting for people to watch because folks love their favorite player. People will die for their team. Okay? People will straight die for their team. People will rep their team. They never spent a dime going to a game. They have all the memorabilia. Okay? And I felt like the future of heroclix was teams. Okay?
Remember, there was. I remember. Remember those.
It was. That's what Tony did, and that's a whole side thing. And I know some stuff about that, and I know he did a lot of those dudes dirty about that. Okay, and I can sort of say it because A, he never wrote my paycheck, and B, it's not really Realms wrote the championship anymore. There were 3 teams that were sponsored. Okay, and if you remember, there was a particular person on there that had a very unique title. That was one of those people, And I don't want to out him because he didn't. He told me this in private. So there was a person on there, and he was like, "Look, man, I'm writing my articles like I'm supposed to. I'm wearing the gear like I'm supposed to. I'm competing like I'm supposed to. Why am I getting $5 towards a hotel? Why am I having to beg to get my money?" And then he stopped writing, and then, Tony was like, "Well, you should be writing." He's like, "I haven't gotten my money." And then, the falling out comes from there. And that's one of the main reasons when I started doing the quarry, I was like, I was about to turn it down. Because I was like, look, man, this dude can't pay me because he can't pay on these other people.
Right.
And so TCG Player paid me.
Yeah.
It's a little known secret. TCG Player paid me. Howard never paid me, and Tony and Realms never paid me. It was TCG Player that paid me. And even in part, if I kept doing it, Howard was willing to give me payment in a different way. And
Point?
No, maps.
Okay, yeah, that's because when I was doing I forgot what it was, but you know how I was doing those reports for my site?
Yeah.
For the last couple of years? Yeah, they would pay me by points, and I would use those points to I can redeem whatever I wanted on their store.
Okay, now
that's how they were paying me.
This is something in brief I wanted to talk about on air. In part, we both sort of cannibalized each other. Okay, so you started doing reports. And
yeah, the written reports. Yeah.
And you just beat the quarry like leaps and bounds, and I was just like, well, crap.
No, I would say it's different because I put the lists up and then you could talk about it.
Well, and I would say this is how I looked at it. I was like, man, I'm getting beat to the punch by Patrick every freaking time. I can't keep up. And so I remember there was definitely when you're scheduling talent, and you're experiencing it a little bit now, but you schedule talent and try to get the interviews, and you're just like, gosh, I'm trying to get this person is hard, and I don't want to do this one thing without them. And then all of a sudden they're on like Critical Clicks or Clicked Off, and I'm like, gosh, dog. But you all were beating me to the punch, and so I was like, you know what? There's always going to be Majestics covering events, so I don't think there's a purpose for the quarry anymore because Majestics is going to beat me to the punch, and everybody's going to go there first. And so that just went through my
but I think it's different though because I was doing it just to report. You were doing the analysis, so I think it complements each other because that way you guys can talk about it, right?
Yeah, and I think and that's I would say that was how I was looking at because I would say in part I had a mixed view, and my main view was I'm the news, and I wanted to make sure that it was correct. And then the other part of it was we had the ESPN analysis, and that we would sit there and chop it up.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it.
Yeah, and so I think the problem for me was I still wanted to be the news part, and that wasn't there. And like when you look at the analytics of the show, the problem with the analytics of the show was and this is talking about Realms before Facebook really ate Realms.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So when I look at my first few shows, I came out the gate, I got like 300 views, and I was like tipping my hat. I was feeling swaggerlicious. Okay. Once I got towards the end, the average views of the show was around 100, which is less than I get on Starting Over Podcast.
Yeah. So do you think that's? But hold on, but don't you think that's because like a whole bunch of podcasts were popping up after during that time? Because you were the only one before that.
Well, see, like I can joke and I can say I am the oldest tactical podcast because I am. And I was looking at this. I was like, I've almost been doing this for 10 years. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh, gosh. But I was also, like, I was on Blip before I even got to YouTube. So there's that time before that.
Oh, that's right, Blip.
Yeah, the Century and Void days got me famous. But when I look at the like inswelling of shows.
Yeah, it was just a ton of them.
After the quarry, there were a lot. Like it's like everybody was, and then the best part, I feel good and I feel bad because the best part was I was like, I would have somebody on the quarry, or I would have some other people. They would listen to the quarry, and be like, I listened to the quarry, man, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a show, and I'm like, good, and that's great. And some of them are great, like Clickstoff and Critical Clicks, and then some were okay. I'm not gonna say any were bad because nothing beats some of that. Oh gosh, there's some old podcasts, and I've reamed that podcast so much on the show I can't talk about it anymore. So I'll let it go.
Which one was it?
All I have to say is this: it's the oldest podcast in heroclix.
Oh, clickscast?
Yeah.
You know, I've never heard one episode. I don't know what they talk about. I assume it's clicks.
It is, and it's not even the new host. It's like the first host of it. I just hated him.
Right.
And now, folks think again. I'm a punk, and I've not. I'll just say this over the internet, and not to that person. I was like, no, I directly messaged Steve in a point where there was going to be some other different stuff happening on Realms, and there was going to be like this partner program thing on Realms. I just flat out told him that I hated him, and that he was a divisive dude for the community.
What is it, Steve who?
Steve makes the maps.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he hosts the...
He used to.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Dude, he said some of the most vilest crap to Dan. And then Dan went on the show. Yeah. He talked like if you could go back.
When was this?
Oh, this is after he won his first championship. They did that whole, he's not my HeroClix World Champion. This is what ruins the game. People like him. They were the main people spurning the casual versus meta fight.
Oh god, is he Steve Bo 14 or whatever on
I don't even know. I don't even know anymore.
I didn't know that he was the host. I've talked to him a couple times.
A long time.
He does the maps, right? He does the maps.
Yeah. And so then I just told to his face. I was like, look, I don't like what you did. And he never really did anything to try to say like, yo, I messed up the community. I was wrong. These are things I didn't like, but I shouldn't have attacked people. If he
so he actually did that, huh?
Yeah. If he ever did that, if he ever said, you know what, I'm like, thank you for being a man. I apologize for all the crap that I said about you. Okay? But he never did. And so he helped spawn and spur that war like a poker to the fire. So anyway, this is turning into like old man time. It's like, remember the days? Pepper's Farm.
That's funny. I had no idea.
Yeah. I've taken this more seriously than some other interviews. I have questions written down. I haven't done that in years. I'm a professional. So you can tell, like, I'm taking this seriously. All right, so sort of going back is, I would really ask this. What would it take for a West Coast player to leave the West Coast? Because it seems to me that they feel like it's Mecca. Like, everybody will come to us anyway. Why do we need to leave? So why does a West Coast player need to come out and leave the nest, so to speak, and venture into like the Midwest, the South, or even the East Coast?
Oh, I don't know. I think it. So before, before The Rock, nobody really did, right? Because there were no events. But then, like my guys, we decided let's start because there's a tournament now we could go around and play. And we also wanted to test our skills against other people. Mm-hmm. I like your analogy was like going and challenging the dojo masters.
Oh yeah, dojo challenge.
That was like that was awesome. I remember you saying that. I'm like, that's exactly what it is, because we want to see how we can match up against the other people and then also learn from them. But I guess once we started doing that, then other people who were around were like, oh, we could do that too, because they liked the idea of competing against other people, not just in your little group. Also, it didn't I just when that whole glass cabinet thing came out, where it was just all the East Coast guys just shitting on the West Coast, that inspired everyone, because just just all the little our little Facebook groups, the little threads on our local threads on the forums, people would be talking about that, everyone, and then in a way, George was the one that got everyone to get off their ass, because he basically challenged everybody to do something about it. So people are like, yeah, let's train, let's go, and then it got people excited, and it also got a lot of the stores up and down the West Coast to let's start running rock events too, so we can get better, and it just got like that, and then all it takes is that one domino to fall, and then everything follows. So right now, really nobody. Also, because there aren't any, I guess the main thing for me, at least, is back then super qualifiers were super prestigious. Remember, because they would be 40, 50, 60 players at these events.
Yeah.
So it mattered, it mattered a big deal to go and win one of these, because even I remember a bad showing was 30 people. Nowadays, people were a lot of these stores would kill for 30 people, because a lot of them are getting under 20. And that's because the Whiskers Opens has also, basically the Rock and the Whiskers Opens, there's so many events, they're cannibalizing each other.
Okay,
but that was the main thing. So one of the things I was just talking to Chip Barnett, and he was, they have 2 WizKids Opens on November 3rd and 4th, back to back, 2 different stores, pretty close. And he's like, you guys should come up. And I'm like, that would be cool, except that we have 3 that same weekend in our surrounding area. If this was 3 years ago, either there would only be 1, which was one in California, or 1 in Washington. So people would have to choose, or you had no choice. You either had to go to one or the other. So that's what it was. Now that there's so many, you don't need to. So one of the things would be prestige.
Yeah.
So because people, if everything's close by, a lot of people, especially out here, we're very fair weather, just don't want to get up and leave.
Okay, and so and just for listeners' sake, there is a very good episode. Oh, shoot, my mic. There's a very good episode on this. Pat sort of goes into depth talking about this, and I think it is. Give me a moment. Episode 8. Has competitive play become diluted? So if you want to hear a more expanded hour-long take between him and Chase, and I don't know if somebody else was on the show on that one. I think
it was just
you two. Yeah, that one was a definitely good episode, sort of going into that. But I personally feel WizKids Opens is WizKids' offensive position to the Rock, saying, "Look, we print money," and
yes.
They
Absolutely.
Inflated the market and said, look, we can put you out of business if we want to. Because WizKids makes money off of every kit sold. They don't run the events. They don't get a cut of the entry fee. They don't even tell the store what the format is. Tell Rock and be like, yo, here's the kit. You get to keep all your entry fees. Doesn't matter if it's sealed or if it's constructed. The moment that you get sealed rock, oh gosh, no one's showing up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The kits too for the WizKids Opens are, I would say, maybe a quarter of the price or a tenth of the price of a rock super cute, equivalent event. They're I believe their WizKids Open kits are $50 or $60.
Yes.
And a Rock's kit's $500. So if you're a store owner, you're like, well, which one am I going to do? Well, obviously you're going to do the $60 one. $50 one, because you're getting those Ellie's. You know, like one of them's like Lockjaw, right? You're like, geez, you can't beat that.
Yeah, and you're like let's just say you're lucky to get a double kit, and you spend 120. Let's even push it. Let's say you spend 180.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to make that back in entry alone.
And battle royals and
the battle royales are like icing on the cake to give you diabetes. Like that's how much icing is on the cake. It's one bite, you have diabetes. Okay, and to me, I look at that profit margin. I'm like, there is no way for Rock to meet that profit margin, and if it did, there would be something that would have to be cut. Either we wouldn't have maps, or there wouldn't be cash payout at Rocktober.
Exactly. So one of the ones I remember, I had this discussion with Howard a while ago when the Whiskers Open started, and I was like, man, this could be, it's good because there's a variety and there's more options for people to go to, but I said it's bad for the Rock because the price point, the pricing, everything, there's, and it's like, it's not official, right? But the Whiskers Opens are official, so to speak. So the one thing that at the time that the Rock had going for it was prestige. Mm-hmm. Like, if you won a Rock regional, a lot of people would go, and it was a big, huge deal. If you won a Whiskers Open at the time, it was also a big deal. But then when they started doing a whole bunch of them, where now, there's like over 100 of them out there. This is almost like running like pre-release event or something, because there's that many. But the only thing that the Rock has to even remotely compete, or any independent circuit, would be the prestige, because the pricing is not there. So the pricing and the price point is not there. So it has to be something else. Whether it's prestige, like you win the Masters, you get a green jacket. That's like a big thing. So,
you're right about that. And okay, so I'll say this: like in my recent win, like I've had 2 wins this year. One was a sealed WKO, and the other was the Rock Regional.
Mm-hmm. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. I also give you props. You congratulated me on your show. I thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
I also for a little note, I was the only Phoenix Nest member there.
I know. I saw that.
Yeah.
It seems like you guys are everywhere. That's why.
Yeah. So when I won the Sealed, I was like, yay, I won an event, and it was a field of 20 people.
Yeah.
And it was a WKO, and I was like, yes. I finally bust through and I won. Okay, and my guys were like, "You got to do constructed." So when I did constructed, there were like 17 of us in Tulsa, and I looked back in my mind and I was like, I have a more concentrated field. It's a lot tougher. There aren't as many like chaff guys, like free win guys. Right. Like I really didn't have any free win guys. Okay. But I also sort of feel like, I outlasted everybody else, and it's sort of like I moved up, and this is my turn to sit at the table. Yeah. And this sort of hit me later, and I'm not going to like downgrade anybody that I play because it was very strong play. It's just that I know previously I would have had to gone through maybe an extra round.
Right.
Instead of it being top 8, it would have been top 16. There would have been, instead of 17 something people, there would have been like 30 to 40 people.
Right. What was the one that you played, Adam? How many people were that? I remember.
Oh, that was the first Tulsa Rock. Yeah, that final you can still find on YouTube.
Yes. How many players were that one?
At that one, it was preliminaries was 600 points modern. This is the game this was a tournament you're probably thinking about. It was 600 points modern, 300 points.
You played team base.
Yeah, I played team base. There were, to my knowledge, somewhere between 30 to 35 players.
Yeah, that's a good field, man.
Yeah.
solid field.
Yeah, but now and I would say like this. There was a point when Dice Addiction was in their other store where they had more players. We were playing in the hallway,
Wow.
and so when I look at that period of time versus now, I'm like, what's going on? And I know for us, in the Midwest where I'm at, like literally smack dab in the Midwest, like Goku retiring and Agents no longer being a team, let alone a venue, killed at least 5 players. Let alone like the other retirements that came out of any of the other teams. So I can see some fall off, and it also didn't help Reese that same weekend that there was a regional. There was also another tournament. Yeah, which I feel like a regional is a blackout date for everybody else.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it needs to be something like that so that people all congregate to this one thing.
Yeah, if you're like, hey man, I want to get that pass to Rocktober, and I want to get that travel voucher, then I'm driving or flying to wherever. I think that has to be a solid rule. Like you can't let other people schedule. And I said this in another show. Like you can't respect people that don't respect your time.
Right.
if you can't schedule your event, at the beginning of the year or hell 3 months out, how am I supposed to respect your event? And that's sort of the frustrating thing that I had with some of the schedule like this year. It was a little worse this year than like previous years. Because previous years, January, as a team leader, I was having like mid-January, we had like all hands on deck Phoenix Nest team meeting. Like, here's the schedule. Where are you going? Like, how many people are going to there? Can we coordinate this, that, and the other? When I tell folks, like, if you give me enough time, I will probably hit your event. I will more than likely hit your event if you give me enough prep. Last year, I went to Howard's event, okay, down in Huntsville. Yeah, I went to Huntsville. I went to every major title except for Rock Nationals. Okay. I know I flew one other place too to go compete. Like I know I made at least 4 to 5 plane trips to go compete in heroclix. This year I flew up to Chicago to play, again Indy to play. I'm gonna go down to Huntsville to play. If you're within 4 hours driving distance of Kansas City, I'm there. And folks be like, why haven't you ever gone to Dexter? Dexter's 6 hours through the freaking mountains, and I do not want to hear freaking banjo music and other crap like that. Hell, even the point I know, just bringing that up, last year I went to Game Goblins in Arkansas, okay? And when I came on my way back, my car got jacked up. Like, I had an oil leak, and going up and down those hills made the oil leak exasperated. So when I finally got to Kansas City, the following day, my car died. So I'm not going back through there. And then I did get gas in one of those gas stations where literally it's like a 1-lane highway on each side, and then you just swerve off to the side and get gas and pray that the cars going down don't weave over and hit you. And I saw the land that time forgot. I saw Littlefoot. He was walking around looking at me, and it's like, I'm just a ghost, Edward. Same with this barn. Yeah, it's not fun driving through there. But yeah, if you give me enough time, I'll schedule there. And even Matty G, hell, I don't even know how Matty G gets to half the tournaments. I get a message like, I'm into a tournament, what's my team, boss? And I'm like, I didn't even know you were going. So yeah, like I said, it's the scheduling thing is an issue, but I feel in particular WKOs have made the player base fat. And not the PHAT version, the FAT. It's like, why do I need to strive to get something when it's handed to me? And so why do I need to go do rock? I got to work to do rock. You know,
Yep.
I can go fart around 2 hours and I can get to a WKO. That's fine. Or like I call them, the additional prize support rocks when you have prize support WKOs when you have them in the middle of the week, because we already know that's just prize support for your venue.
Oh, that's right. They do that.
Oh yeah.
You know, I have heard about that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How does that even? Oh man, that's crazy.
As
but do they
KJ
even
Foster. KJ Foster busted up 2 of them. Like, I laughed at it because this year, at the beginning of the year, when I flew up to Chicago, KJ was telling me, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to go to this one this weekend." It was PJ, myself, and him, and he had one that was literally that Wednesday. So after we got everything settled out, he won there. He went on to win the other one at the middle of the week at that other venue, and it was just the locals, and you had to pre-register, and if you didn't pre-register, you couldn't play. Oh no, it gets worse than that, because there's one place where one of my teammates, Dragon, was at, and I'm still a little bit nerd raged about that. He showed.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, I did a whole episode on that. Yeah,
New Jersey?
Huh?
New Jersey?
Yeah, New Jersey. Yeah, and he went up there and he said, "Oh, the whole event was full." And I went through everything from the win and verified from other people that the space wasn't even full, and the tournament wasn't even full. They didn't even hit the max occupancy for the tournament that they said they had, and they stopped him from playing. So yeah, like there's tons of places that are bullcrap, and I know unfortunately that venue's protected because they have a judge. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. I had some questions submitted by some people I know. Lucas Van Hollen asks, "What's going to win Team Worlds? What team wins Worlds and why? What team is going to win Worlds and why?"
Man, I wish it was as easy as last year, because it was just going to be Union.
Shaquille Thunder, Goblin King.
Yeah. We're talking about Rock, right?
No, he's actually. I think he's actually talking about Worlds.
Okay, well, man, that's hard because we don't know how Battle World is going to fit into all this. So, I guess I have to make an educated guess. Let's see. Well, let me ask you something real quick. How good do you think Sheriff Strange will be?
50 or 100.
I don't know.
That's really the call, because Sheriff Strange at 100, I feel you're playing him on an Avengers theme team. The problem is that's going to be a tight build if you're looking at the typical Hawkeye Star Fox build. So you're already running it tight. Okay, and then you still have that threat of like, hey man, here's Odin. Because I think Odin has Avengers keyword too. So if you're running him at 50, you're pretty much saying F you, pay me to ID cards. That's all you're really doing. If you run him at 100, you have identified some piece of equipment that's a major problem. So really there are two, Mjolnir and Symbiote. Yeah. Those are really the only two that you want to disarm. So then you have to ask yourself, following that, is my team susceptible to the powerhouses running Mjolnir, and is my team susceptible to any team that's successful with Symbiote, aka Goblin King, which is pretty much it right now. So that's the big thing. And unfortunately for me, I, as a forecasting mechanic, because WizKids have made Sheriff Strange, I feel that they have a nasty piece of equipment waiting for us.
Yeah, maybe. That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess with all that, I mean, not knowing how the format's going to shake out because we need to see some events, I think I'm going to say Starro, because people, it's really good. people still don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I only because we don't have one out here, and people just don't really know because there's only been a couple. You know what? I want to say what Dustin Cedars played one, Pedro played one in Brazil, so we haven't seen. Isaac played one.
There's been like 5 events.
Yeah, there's like
and PJ's. I don't know. No, it was Dan. Dan played. I thought Dan played one.
Oh, did he? I know PJ played in Canada, right? Did he not?
Okay, yeah. Never mind. Yeah, that was PJ. No,
Yeah,
PJ. No, that was X-Men in Canada. I thought.
No. He won Canada Nationals. This is Canada Cup, the one that he.
Oh, yeah. That was Starro. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I would say Starro just because people don't know, and you're not gonna really know until Worlds itself because that's the only other time you could get them. Right? There isn't another event before that you could just get them.
No, I think Starro's going to be the Faust.
There you go. So I'm gonna say a Starro build, whether it's a cosmic theme team with like Star Fox, Lockjaw, or heck, you might even play Unimine with him. It's only 265. Play some ID cards. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna say Starro.
Yeah, see, you brought it up. I didn't really think about because now you have the Unimine integration. Oh, yeah. All right, Starro. All right, so the next question that we have, there was 2 questions brought by my teammate Jared. What is your prep like before playing a big event? Since you don't play as much anymore now, and what's the most important skill that separates a tier 2 level player from a tier 1 level player?
Damn, this is Buffington.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I saw that you announced him on your team. Yeah, that's congrats to him. And you got a real good guy on.
Also, Hobbit's one of my dudes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Hobbit's one of my dudes.
Everybody's there. No, this is a really good question. I love Jared, man. He's cool. I hope to see him at the Rock Cup. But
yeah, he's gonna be there.
Oh, he is? Okay, cool. Yeah. Before, so I guess I would look at what I did for this last, because I've only played in one event this year, is the Whiskers Open in Vegas, and I started. So that was on a Saturday. I started Monday. I actually, this is kind of one of the things. Like I had to force some guys to come every day of the week to come help me test. Because there's like 10 of them. So as long as 1 or 2 can come per day. And I guess my advantage is I have a store, so people are going to come here regardless. And if they do come, I tell them bring a modern team, and whether it's something they want to try or if they don't know, then I tell them to build. Like one of the guys played Isaac's Nationals team just to test. Another guy played Maddie's team, and then another one was we played X-Men versus, because I played X-Men Blackbird, so I wanted one of the guys to play the X-Men with the Deadpool. So it's just every day up until Friday, and then just maybe 2, 3, 4 games, at least 2 games a night. 3 would be ideal. So I kind of do like a mini tournaments with them where there's also a bunch of people. There are also other people here that are playing. So I'll do like an impromptu. Like let's say there's 5 of us, then we'll do like a impromptu tournament. Yeah. Just so that we can get, just so I can get my reps of 3 rounds, and then they play. Another, and like one of the guys plays his specialty shredders. So I needed to see what I did against shredders, things like that. Try to play what was at the time the top list. Like Unimine was another one. We actually have a whiteboard here that has it says on here teams, modern age, metagame. And then there's like bullet marks, and there's like right here at the time. So there's like Shredders, X, Unimine, Lockjaw, Cosmic, and then Star Fox, Avengers or Cosmic, and then X-Men variants, Blackbird, Sam Cap, X, and then obviously now we have to add Starro. But we do have a whiteboard that has all that written down. and so that people, when we do test, I was like, build something with these on it, and then we can test it, because these are what we know to be the best teams in the format. And then obviously there'll be like one or two guys that like, I have something completely different. Like Emilio will always have something weird. Like he plays that tangent Green Lantern, which is great, because what if that turns out to be one of the best that you can try? So if that works, then I'll run with that. You know, after all the testing, I was basically set with the X-Men Blackbird, and it was whether or not I wanted to play Darwin or Dupe. And then at the end of, because of Unimind, right, and Goblin King still, and obviously Lockjaw. But at the end of it, I made the decision to go with Dupe, because I was just missing too much. So I needed a dedicated prob with Dupe, and that helped me. That helped me a lot in actually Vegas, because there were a couple times where their defenses were 21 because Star Fox, and I needed to roll like an 8. And I'm like, well, crap, I got a prob with Dupe and a theme team. Let's see it. And it's a flurry. All right, I just need to connect. Because once you hit Star Fox once, he goes to prob. Now his perplex is gone, and now you can just hit him. So, and that helped me quite a bit, because I played 3 or 4 Star Fox teams. So that's the preparation. And his other question was like, what's the biggest skill?
Yeah, it separates a tier 1 from a tier 2 player.
Well, obviously positioning. Everybody always talks about positioning. Like that's a given. But I think even more so is you need to know what your opponent is going to do on their turn when you're doing your turn. Because if you can figure out what they're going to do, you can already plan for it. So if you already know that they're going to move to, B17 or whatever, then you plan accordingly to that. And then, there are little tells here and there, like where they place the boxing ring, where do they put, what map they choose, how they move their guys on turn 1. So that's a very important thing, is to know what your opponent is doing on your turn, so that you can already, so it's kind of, that's like chess, right? You got to know what they're doing. You got to already plan that far ahead. But in heroclix, you can only plan 1, maybe 2 turns at the absolute most, if there's like people are being taken down and there's no leadership. You can figure out what they can do in 2 turns. But yeah, I would say that would be a big one, because a lot of times the players here, and a lot of players that I encounter, are worried about what they're going to do on their turn. So if you're worried about what you're going to do in your turn, then to me you're already behind, because if you're sitting across from me, I already know what you're going to do, and I'm doing my turn. So you're behind when we play. So obviously, and that's the skill, right? Is being good enough to know that that's what they're going to do. So you have to really study the team, and this is where like having a new team helps, because all those teams that I listed, that I told you before, you can basically tell what they're going to do, because that's the known commodity. It's someone who plays like Tangent Green Lantern or Green Arrow with Sam Cap, like George played. You like the Green Lantern Commissioner Gordon is not a known commodity. It is now, because a lot of people are playing it, but when George was playing it wasn't. So it's hard to think that. That's why Steve was mentioning, like, I didn't know that he could do that, because he's not used to playing against it, as is most people.
Now, and this was something that I said once the retirement came around for the IDs, and I said this specifically, and everybody gave me some guff, and I was like, I've been vindicated by George Masu, and I said this: if there is teams that just dominate with spam, Hawkeye is going to show up. There is no reason for you not to play Hawkeye. And in the midst of that, the game shifts to a single big attacker, then guess what? Green Arrow is going to show up. Yeah. And lo and behold, we have both existing at once. So that's really cool. Yes. And if it wasn't for Starro and Goblin King, I don't think folks would fear Green Arrow. So with Hawkeye being there and Green Arrow being there, you have 2 figures that you cannot play together that are functionally mutually exclusive. You have some magical team design skills out there. And if you do, both Pat and I would like to have you on our show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah.
Because you figured out the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Because great minds have tried, just couldn't do it. I mean, and so it poses a threat to all styles of play right now. And then also, I would definitely say anybody that's looking at that first question, primarily about like prep. I think it's episode 10 of the Majestics podcast with Pedro. I think you talk about this there. Like I said, I've spent the last 2 weeks. I've listened to just about everything since it came out. So
Appreciate it.
oh yeah. I got to do something. I got to do something. So wrapping this up, and you don't have to tip your hand if you don't want to. Sure. What does Majestics 2.0 look like? Because the way it seems, I hear the John Wayne in you. It's like, I got one more ride in me, boys.
Yeah.
Because I listened to your podcast with Paris yesterday. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, is this going to be an OK Corral situation coming up somewhere, somehow? I got to be ready for Pat.
Yeah. It's like I said, the apathy has been spreading. So, it's hard to get up to go do things when no one else wants to do it. And it's the same, like, you're not going to do so, they're not going to do something. And they're not going to do something, you're not doing something. So, ideally, like, for me, like, I'll tell you this. You know who Richard Medina is?
Yes.
So he moved back out here. So he's been coming to the store, and we've been practicing. And I was like, "Look, man, we need like we need like the anchor of the backbone of the team." And I'm like, I feel like you're that guy if you want to put your time into it, because he's willing to travel, as you've seen, and if I can get him to get to get the right mindset, and he's really good. I mean, he's really good. Like I believe he could be one of the top guys. And if Aaron's wife give him a little bit more leeway, a longer leash, then it would start with Aaron and Richard, and then when Chase gets his things together and he gets the schedule right with everything that's going on with him, he's really, really good. He just doesn't get to play. And if Kevin can get back on the horse, those are the four guys that I would definitely put out there. But it's wait and see.
Yeah, and just a note about Chase. If folks don't know Chase, that's probably because you hadn't listened to any older HeroClix podcast. And because all I can see is the Slade image. That's all I can see is the Slade image of their podcast, which I forgot what the title of it.
Generation Clicks.
Generation Clicks. It was at first when you listen to that show, you're like, Chase, man, you're trying. Now you listen to Chase, you're like, oh, okay, he came up. Like, Chase came up. All right, I'm happy for Chase. Give him a clap. Like, yeah, like Chase is good. So Chase, even though it's hard to be like a foil to Pat, and Chase has done a really good job. So
that's why he's there.
Yeah, and so I would definitely say, don't just phase out Chase if you hear him talk. And he'll be humble. He'll be like, I'm still, on the come up. And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, but he's further up the mountain than a lot of people. So, and he's not fresh to the game either. So if anybody thinks like, I never heard of this guy before, I was like, no, man, he's been around. So, it's an hour and a half show. I know y'all are here mainly because it's Pat, because if it's me, I already know what from the analytics, y'all done dipped out by now. Any like last bit words of wisdom? I done shield for you half this podcast, so you don't even need to shield your stuff.
Appreciate that. I don't know. I mean, I think that competitive scene is very healthy right now, and I think Howard's doing everything he can to make sure that the Rock succeeds. I help him out every step of the way. So if there's any other groups out there that do want to like get into the competitive scene, and obviously the Whiskers Open might not be for you because maybe your store didn't get one. The Rock could be a good alternative, especially if you just want to do it just to get better. Because I believe that the better players play at the Rock because, like you said, there's more fat in the Whiskers Open events.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like always, I you get those guests that are legendary in your career. Pat is one. Kevin Fruz is definitely like my number 2 on my list, and tie with George. If I can get George outside of outside a new release of a set, George is freaking like rainbow magic. So so I really hope this has enriched you guys for listening to the show. Definitely. If you're on your way to Rocktober and you're listening to this, or you're on your way to Rocktober, yeah, I already know you're on. Everybody tells me they listen to me on the way down to Rocktober. You got 5 hours. You got 5. I already know this, man. I already know this. You're like, oh, dude, I got 4 hours left. Oh, thank you, Dark Logos. I didn't fall asleep in the car, and drive off the road and kill half my team. Thank you very much.
Jeez.
So definitely check out, like I said, Majestics Podcast on YouTube, and it's also on SoundCloud. You're going to bounce between that, and I think there's also a new episode of Critical Clicks, and there's always an episode of Clickcast. So definitely get Majestics back into your rotation if you're used to listening to high-level competitive play. I didn't say meta because Pat's on the show.
Oh man, I was waiting for you to say something.
Hey,
it's so funny, man. I love when you like acknowledge that. It's so funny. It cracks me up.
Yeah. So there we go. So like always, you can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space, and it brought me a snow cone from Disneyland, but it was a puddle by the time it was done. But it's got that hyperdimensional radiation, so I probably shouldn't be anywhere near it. So you can definitely find out when a new show is up because, YouTube just doesn't like YouTubers. And that's pretty much the most reliable way to know when there's a new show. There's no need to hit that bell or hit the subscribe button anymore. Follow me on Twitter because you can ding all that stuff and my show still won't show up. I know this because I've hit the bell on like 15 different channels. And then after a while, YouTube just doesn't bring up their shows if I'm not watching it. So follow me on Twitter. You'll know when all the new shows are up. You can also email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it pithy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. Let me know what you think about this show. Any other sort of pointers you have about improving your community. And if you're on the West Coast and I lit a fire underneath your butt, just sort of leave a little fire symbol in the email so that I know that you're coming for me or something like that. Just as long as it's not violently and it's on clicks. Because if it's violently, I have to break out them talons and show you Wakanda forever. And, gosh. All right. And last but not least, if you want to donate to the show, head over to startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. On there, you'll see my crushed hopes and dreams about writing constantly about heroclix. And you can donate to the show. Everything will make this goes to making the show better. Like I need to go buy a webcam because my last one broke. So, yeah. All right, that's it. I'd like to thank Pat once again for being on the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
And like always, people,